friend of a friend. That song is a banger. Hey guys, it's Alexis here, and today we are going to be talking about the series Scott Pilgrim and why I think it is great, why I think it is peak fiction, and why you guys should check it out. So, without further ado, let's go with the video. So before I get into the video, I want to talk about how I got into Scott Pilgrim. So my brother's one who told me about it after he watched the movie. He was like, "Oh my gosh, this movie, like, it's so funny, it's so good, like, you should watch it. It's about this, that, and third. You should watch it." So I watched the movie, hilarious. I loved it. It was so good. It was so funny. And then the anime came out, and so I was like, okay, let's go. Like more content. So I watched the anime. I liked it. It was good. And then, I realized that it was based on the comics. My brother told me that he was reading the comics or whatever like that. So I asked for the comics for Christmas. And so I got, not to brag, but I got the box set. I got the Scott Pilgrim box set in color. And it came with extras. And it also came with, it's not, oh, here it is. It also came with this. But more on these characters later. And it also came with a poster and some stickers. So anyway, so yeah, I got the box set, read the whole thing, read the whole series. It was chef's kiss. It was so good, even better than my brother described it. But I want to get into these wacky characters, and I also want to compare the movie to the comics to the anime. Because there are, of course, since it's the same, not the same, well, yeah, since it has the same characters, of course there are some similarities, whatever. But there are also some differences that I did notice since I've consumed all three mediums. So, anyways, let's get into that. So, as the title of the whole series suggests, this series is about a man named Scott Pilgrim. He is 20, when he first, opened... When we first find out about him, one of the first things we find out about him is that he is 23 years old and he's in between jobs, not really doing much with his life. And we find that one of the first things we find out about him is that he is dating a high schooler, 17-year-old Knives Chow. Yes, not a very good look. But the thing about Scott is that even as a protagonist, he's not a good person. He's a douchebag. He is not a good person at all. How do I say this? Well, first of all, he's dating a 17-year-old as a 23-year-old man. That's first of all. And also, he's only really dating her, I guess, as to kind of get over his breakup with his ex, Envy Adams, who's a big rock star now. She's a really big popular singer. And he's kind of just doing whatever, because it's easy for him. He also just doesn't treat the people in his life that well, to be honest. He kind of, I wouldn't say disregards them, but he just, in general, he just doesn't treat people that well and does tend to kind of not disregard people's feelings about stuff. And he's very forgetful, but more on that later. But he's also very forgetful about things and situations, how things happen. And he kind of just pushes these things down. He doesn't realize how bad the stuff that he does is, and the things that he does to other people is. He really just does not acknowledge how bad this is. For example, well, we'll bring up Ramona later, but for example, how he treated Knives, how he treated Kim, just in general, he does tend to weaponize his incompetence a lot, and he kind of not pushes himself up to make himself seem like a better person, but he just does not, for whatever reason, he just doesn't realize that he's that much of a scumbag, which makes him even more of a scumbag. You know what I'm saying? So there's this girl named Ramona Flowers, and Scott sees her in his dreams, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is the girl of my dreams." He quite literally keeps seeing her in his dreams. And so then he meets her at this party that he goes to. And, first it's an awkward start, but then he finds out where she works, and then he decides she delivers movies and stuff. So he decides to order a movie with his roommate's credit card, by the way, because Scott ain't got no money. And so he orders a movie just so he can see her and ask her out, which is very weird, but for some reason it works on her, and she decides to, you know, go out with them, and they have a nice time, whatever. So then they decided to start going out. But then there's this league of evil exes, and Scott finds out from Ramona that, oh yeah, you have to defeat my 7 evil exes if you want to date me, and they're all gonna come try and kill you. Maybe not all at once. Maybe you might have to fight like a couple at a time. But yeah, if you want to date me, you have to defeat all my evil exes because they're gonna try and come kill you. And he's like, okay. And that's just it. He decides to fight her evil exes. Mind you, he's still dating Knives while he's dating Ramona. I mean, he does eventually end up breaking up with Knives, but only because his roommate was like, hey, go break up with her. Like, she is an innocent angel. Like, she's too good for you, and also, like, you're cheating. Like, go break up with her. Also, she's in high school! Like, bro, go break up with her. And he's like, that's too hard. Do I have to? Like, yes, bro, go break up with her. What's wrong with you? But that's the type of stuff I be talking about. Let's talk about some other characters. Let's talk about the best character in the series, Wallace Wells. Also, hear me out on Wallace. Anyways, so Wallace Wells, he is Scott's cool gay roommate. Well, I'm putting cool and gay in the quotes because that's how Scott always introduces him, and that's how he's introduced in the series, as Scott's cool gay roommate. Yeah, his name is Wallace. He's gay. Scott lives with him. And, you know, he is hilarious. He is so funny. Like, one of my favorite jokes of the series is literally because of him.
Before you hear some dirty lies from someone else, yes, I'm dating a 17-year-old.
Oh, is he cute?
It's literally a joke that he makes. That's literally one of my favorite jokes of the series. But yeah, so Wallace, you know, like I already said this like a couple times, but he's gay. He usually has like a few different dudes in the house. There was one time where literally Scott walked in and like, Wallace like, turn off the lights, because I guess he was banging some dude, and he was like, yeah, you might have seen some guy's junk, and I apologize for that. But hilarious. But and so comic Wallace, he cares a lot about Scott despite not obviously he doesn't condone like a lot of his actions, and like I said, and yeah, but he's a pretty good friend to Scott. He's always there for him. He gives him advice. He even helps like dig up some dirt on the evil exes if need be. Like I said, he does give him advice and whatever. And they seem like generally good friends. And I'm pretty sure like the reason how they even become friends in the first place is because Wallace had a crush on Scott. It's kind of implied because he just started talking to him hey, because they went to the same college. So he started talking to him and was like, hey, you know, you've ever been to this class before? And he was like, And then he started following Scott around. And then I guess that's kind of how they ended up just like living together. But yeah, they seem like really good friends. Wallace is a really cool person. Like, he's, I want to say rational some of the time. I don't know, he's goofy like a lot of people. But he's very snarky, very funny. He is hilarious. Comic Wallace, my king. But not just comic Wallace. Okay, anime Wallace and also movie Wallace. Comic Wallace is a lot different from like movie Wallace and anime Wallace, because movie Wallace and anime Wallace, they basically kind of act like they're just like fed up with Scott. Like, they're just like, they just don't want anything to do with him. They are fed up. Like, they even kick him out. Like, they even kick him out. They even kick him out. Like, or at least they want to kick him out. Like, hey, I'm gonna lock the house up. Like, hey, you gotta get out. Moving Ramona, you gotta get out. Like, they basically kind of like still friends, like, of course, but they still they hate Scott. Like, in the comics, he's a lot nicer to Scott in a way, but obviously he doesn't condone Scott's actions. Like, even when their lease was up, he was like, hey, you know, what are we gonna do? Like, I'll stay here if you want me to, but, you know, I would suggest you ask Ramona if you can live with her. But, I mean, but then it turns out that he was already, like, kind of hoping that Scott, like, asked Ramona to live with her, because he already signed a lease with his boyfriend, Mobio. Which is sweet couple. Which is funny, because, like, haha, classic Wallace, a-hole, like everyone else in the series. But yeah, I love Wallace so much. He's my favorite character in the series. Love Wallace. I just want to say that, like, even though there is a change, his character in the movie and in the anime are not bad. Just saying, it's like one of those things. It's not a bad change. It's just a change that you would notice if you have seen all three. So yeah, just you know, kind of wanted to reiterate that. It is worth noting that Scott is in a band. They're called Sex Bomb. Not Sex Bomb, Sex Bomb. And he's in this group with Steven Stills, Kim Pines, and Scott. And that's it. That's the band. And then Young Neil is also a character that's there. Young Neil lives with Steven Stills. And I really love Young Neil. Now in the comics, like, he goes from being kind of just like, he's kind of just there, like, you know, he's young, you know, he's a young kid. He's 20, but young kid. He's there, you know. But but then he like slowly, like everyone else in the series, he slowly turns like to more of like an a-hole, and we're like, okay, like at least kind of. But I really love his character in the anime. In the movie, it's just kind of like, I mean, he's just there, honestly. He's honestly just there. But in the anime, he is so funny. He is so unintentionally funny. Like, one of the jokes he literally says to Ramona's from New York, by the way. And he was like, you know, he was riding a golf cart, and he's like, you know, in America, they call these Mario Karts. And she's like, no, they don't. And he's like, how would you know? And she's like, because I'm American. And he's like, well, they definitely call them Mario Karts in Japan. And Ramona's like, no, I don't think they do. And he's like, I agree to disagree. But anyways, Young Neil is so funny in the anime. I love him. Anime Young Neil supremacy. But since we're talking about the anime, I want to talk about Steven Stills a little bit. So Steven Stills, it's Sex Bomb is his band. And so in the comics, Steven Stills, he's kind of just like, he's just a dude. Like, he's just a dude. He cares a lot about his band. He's kind of neurotic about it, to be honest, about his band. But I mean, he's Scott's friend, but like, obviously sometimes they kind of, like, everyone is like, just kind of like everyone in the story kind of act like they hate Scott a little bit because like Scott's an a-hole. But he's just honestly, he's just a dude. He's just a guy. But like in the anime and in the movie, I noticed that they made him a lot more like anxious, like all over the place, like like all over the place. But like in the comics, he's just a guy, man. He's probably like, out of everyone, he's probably like the most normal person, which is saying a lot. Consider the series this is. But he's like the most normal human being. And then Kim, she used to date Scott. This is important. Yeah, she used to date Scott. And more on that relationship and what happened with that later. But because this goes into like Scott's development. But throughout the comics, at least, we can see that Kim's definitely still has like some harbored feelings for Scott that she never really got over until like towards the end of the series. But yes, that's a little more than the characters. Oh, also by the end of the series, Steven Stills is gay. He's like, yeah, just kind of just figured that out. Which honestly, about like in the queer characters within the story, that could be a whole video in itself. And there have been people who have made videos about that, so you should probably go watch those because they're probably a lot better explaining things than I am. But it is worth noting that by the end of the series, we find out that he's gay. So before we get into the exes, I want to talk a little bit about Knives. So the thing about Knives, she's obviously 17 years old, and she's a high schooler, and she's dating Scott, and she's dating this older guy. She really loves Scott a lot. And then after Scott breaks up with her, she's kind of like a wreck. And of course, she does try to like fight Ramona to get him back or like that. She gets mad at Ramona saying that, you know, you stole him from me, blah, blah, blah. So she's like obsessed with Scott. But then throughout the story, we kind of see her development, kind of see her kind of transition from that like crazy, like obsessed with Scott, like 17-year-old to by the end of the series, she's 18. And then we kind of see her mature a bit. She gets a job, and then she kind of like lays off of Scott, and she realizes that, you know, I'm trying to be okay with myself. I'm trying to, you know, be okay with accept who I am as a person, you know, so I'm not, you know, I'm kind of done with you as far as you isn't like Scott. So, which was a beautiful, beautiful character development to see. But again, crazy like everybody else in the story. But now let's get into the 7 evil exes, because I have some words. So the 7 evil exes are Matthew Patel, Lucas Lee, Roxy, I don't know what her last name is, Todd Ingram, the twins, Ken and... Ooh. It's not Kyle. It might be Kyle. I don't know, but they're twins, okay? They're twins. Katya and Nagi, I think is their name. Their last name, I mean. And Gideon. Yeah. Gideon. And those are some of the Alexis. And so Matthew Patel, like he's the first evil ex, and he dated Ramona in middle school, and then she kind of just like moved on after that, whatever. So not too much to say about him, except like in the anime, he kind of takes over the evil X's, like the evil. I like to do his character where he kind of takes over like the evil X organization. So cool, nice character in the he's funny, nice character in the anime, cool. As far as like the movie and the comic, not too much to say about him. Scott beats him up, whatever. Lucas Lee, again, like cool character, decent person, decent character, whatever. I like how like him and Scott kind of like talk in the comics, and then like he like skateboards off a rail and dies. That's it. Roxy, she's my favorite evil X, to be honest. She's a ninja, and she's the reason why whenever Scott like says ex-boyfriends, Ramona corrects him and says exes because Roxy's a girl. So she's a lesbian. She's cool. She's cool people. Like she's a ninja and stuff. She used to be fighting me, and she actually fights Ramona she does fight Scott. Scott punches her in the boob in the comic. And well, does he do so in the he does so in the movie too. She fights Ramona a lot in the comic, or more than Scott did. And then they tell him like, hey Scott, get over it. You gotta hit a girl, man. Get over it. But anyways, she's cool people. I really like what they did with her character in the anime, how they kind of like, she got a lot more like backstory as to what her and Ramona had going on, and kind of how Ramona kind of left her as high and dry, which kind of shows what kind of person Ramona is, which, oh boy, her and Scott are a match made in heaven. I will tell you that. For the wrong reasons. But yeah, I really like Roxy. She's my favorite Relax. The twins, honestly, there's not much to say about them because they honestly don't have that much character. They're like really smart and they invent a lot of things. They're famous inventors, and that's what they do in the comics. That's they always send their robots to fight Scott, which is fine, whatever. And in the movie, however, they changed it and they made them like rock stars for whatever reason. That was very interesting when I watched the movie back. After reading the comic, that was very interesting. The same thing kind of happened like in the anime. They just don't have that much character, to be honest. And then like in the future, which spoilers alert, but in the future they kind of just like join a band with old Scott, and it's a whole thing. The twins don't really have that much character to them, honestly. Like they're really forgettable, to be honest, which is sad, but it's like, Todd Ingram, he's a vegan. That's why he has his vegan powers, and he's also dating Scott's ex, the big ex, Envy Adams, until she finds out that in the comic, then she finds out that he was cheating on her with one of the band members. So yeah, and then he got his vegan powers taken away. So yeah, that was the whole thing. And he's okay. I like how in the anime they made him like obsessed with Wallace because he ends up having like an affair with Wallace on a movie set. I know it's crazy, but it's a whole thing. And I like how he ended up like being obsessed and like in love with Wallace. That was a cool thing that they did with his character. I like that. And then Gideon, he's the big bad X. Like he's like the big boss X. And that's pretty much true for all three iterations until you get to the anime, and then he kind of becomes a loser. But then he gets with Julie and tries to work his way back up. Julie is a character in the series. She's known as a bitch, basically. Sorry I had to say it like that, but that's kind of her character. Yeah. And that's Alexis. Now let's talk about Scott and Ramona. The thing about Scott and Ramona is that they're two sides of the same coin. They're both cheaters. They both like to run away from their problems and not deal with it. And they're just like not good people at all. Like Ramona, she cheated on, not cheated, but she as soon as like Todd Ingram walked by, she immediately left Lucas Lee. Like immediately as soon as he walked by, like that was it. She left Roxy high and dry. She not, I like people don't talk about this, but she cheated on Scott with Roxy because Roxy stayed at Ramona's house for a little bit, and then after they came out, and mind you, this was after she was jealous of this girl that liked Scott, and Scott didn't do anything with this girl because he was in love with Ramona. Scott didn't do anything with this girl, and she got super mad and jealous about it. She's a very jealous person in the comics, she's a really jealous person in the comics, but then she go out and do what she do, like, and then she said to Scott, I'm sorry I got so upset, also I didn't do anything with Roxy, we just made out a little bit. You made out a little bit? Scott didn't really respond to this because probably for multiple reasons. as to why he didn't really respond to it. He didn't care, I guess. But she said we made out a little bit. So you cheated on Scott, like, and just like, and then she got super jealous of this girl that liked Scott. And mind you, Scott wasn't doing nothing with this girl. He did not like this girl. He did not want this girl. Like, and then as for Scott, like, he left Kim, like, okay, so in his mind, how him and Kim like broke up is that, like, he moved away, which is true. He did move away, but he didn't tell Kim he was moving away. He told his friend, who was also Kim's friend, and then she told Kim that Scott was moving away. Scott didn't even go to, mind you, Kim was his girlfriend. He did not go to her directly and say, hey, I'm moving away. He went to his friend, who then told Kim. And also, he forgot how him and Kim got together in the whole first place. He thought, oh yeah, I had to save you from this big bad guy, and I had to beat him up, blah, blah, blah. And that whole time, that was like a dude that Kim was like kind of dating, that, and then she kind of just like left him for Scott. And mind you, Scott forgot all about this. He pushed this down, and that's the kind of part of his character that you see like towards the end of the series, the comics, I mean. He kind of pushes like all these like things down, like subconsciously, because he doesn't want to have to face the fact that he's a bad person who has done very bad things. Also, Ramona left Scott high and dry. Like, as far as Ramona, I like Ramona's character in the anime too, because she owns up to like the stuff she be doing, and she even apologizes actually, which is crazy. Like, she's cool. In the movie, she's kind of like, she feels kind of empty in the movie, to be honest. But I think that's probably because that's also because she kind of falls into like the manic pixie dream girl, right, trope. Is that what they call it? Yeah. She falls into that kind of trope. So that's probably why she kind of falls pretty flat as a character in the movies. Again, movies are still enjoyable, and the movie is still enjoyable, and it still holds up for me. But then if you look at the two different iterations, especially the comics, you could definitely tell, like, I mean, again, it's like a 1-something hour movie. So it's like, obviously you can't put a whole bunch of context and stuff in there. So it's a lot of things missing. But yeah, so Ramona, not a good person at all. But she runs away from her problems just like Scott does. So they're a match made in heaven, honestly. They're both terrible people. They don't be doing the same stuff. They don't do the same shit. But that's the whole point, is about, you know, bettering yourself, becoming better people. Because everyone in this comic, honestly, for the most part, are terrible people. They're all a-holes. They're all mean to each other. They all mean to other people. They be cheating on, they cheat, they lie, blah, blah. Like, yeah. That's the whole point, is self-betterment. And that's what Scott learns, you know, to be a better person. He even ends up apologizing to Knives. And he ends up not apologizing, but he ends up having like a little heart-to-heart with Kim. So him and Kim, like, although they're already friends, they kind of end off like the series like on better terms. Same thing with Envy. He has a heart-to-heart with her, even though we don't know the full context, because Scott is an unreliable narrator that we find out. He's a very unreliable narrator, and we don't know exactly how everything between him and Envy went. But as far as we saw, Envy was the common denominator here. She, like, as like she started getting more popular, she kind of just like discarded Scott and like threw him to the side. And also, I love that Wallace sticks up for Scott. He hates Envy with a passion. Not only because of how she treated Scott, but because she's also again, me in person, but she basically called this man the F slur. She basically called him the F slur. Like, I'm not gonna repeat what she said. Like, it wasn't the actual slur, but that's essentially what she said, and I don't want to repeat it. But she said another F word. It was the F slur, but she called him another F word. And now I understand why he doesn't like her so much. But I love that's because, but also because, like, that's Scott is his friend, and like he's gonna, you know, he gonna stand behind him. He gonna stand beside him. He gonna stand behind him, 10 toes. But they both become better people by the end of the series, Ramona and Scott. And that's all what the series is about. It's about, you know, betterment, kind of. Yeah, like at the end of the series, everyone ends up doing their own thing, and they end up, you know, kind of living their lives. They end up living their lives, you know. It's a coming of age for adults. It's a coming of age for adults who still need to come of age, like that. But yeah, he definitely does mature over the course of the series. Like, he becomes a little less dumb, even though he's very airheaded. But that's his charm. Even Ramona said in the comments, like, he has like this innocence to him. I want to talk about Scott's character in the movie just for a second. it's definitely different than how he's portrayed in the comics and in the anime. But the anime is a lot closer to how Scott's personality is in the comics, and I'm pretty sure that has something to do with the fact that Michael Cera is the one who plays him. So just like so in the movie, he kind of comes off as like super like awkward. I mean, he is, but like just kind of super like awkward and like really like incompetent and kind of like, I don't know, like just super unaware of what he's doing when he's actually kind of like he's an a-hole. Like he not like in but like in the movie it comes off that he is like super like unintentionally like he's just like he's just super stupid, so he just ends up making bad decisions. But like in the comics and like in the anime, it's like he is that incompetent to where he's not malicious, he's not super malicious with what he does, but it's obvious, he still has his moments where he's like, very intentional in what he does. But in the movie, the way he comes off is just like I don't know, like not innocent in a way where he's kind of like that awkward nerd, so that's why he gets himself in these situations. But again, that's probably because like it's Michael Cera who plays him. No hate, because he did a good job. He did a good job, and I'm glad that they all reprised the roles in the anime. But that's also just something that I wanted to highlight, that his character in the movie is pretty different from the comics and the anime. Just saying. Like when I read the comics, like after reading like the movie and even like watching the anime, like I was like, oh, this is not the same Scott at all. This is not the same Scott. But also, the series is just hilarious. Like all the heartfelt stuff aside, this series is just so hilarious. It's so funny. There are so many different scenes that made me laugh. Like whether that be in the movie, whether that be in the anime, whether that be in the comics. It's just funny. It's just funny. Oh my gosh, it's just funny. And also, let's not act like this. Let's not act like this. I'm gonna show you. It's right here. But I'm like, don't act like that panel don't go hard. That goes hard. That goes so hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. But as for which is better, obviously the comics, the original source, like it's really good. Again, there's a lot more like character development and a lot more context for things, and obviously because it's over 6 volumes. But the movie and the anime still hold up. Like although like a lot of things are different, like they changed that. The thing about like how, because Envy and Ramona fight in the comics, and so then so they figured out like Envy's like weakness. Scott said that Envy's weakness is like if you like hit the back of her knee. And like I guess that's her erogenous zone or whatever. But they changed that in the movie for that to be Roxy's, which is really weird. Like actually, I think it's just like strange change. It's like it's just a random odd change. But yeah, I think both still hold up. Obviously, the comic is like, but both still hold up, and they're honestly still enjoyable. As someone who again just recently read the comics, and I watched both back, and again, I still enjoyed it. I still got a little hee hee ha ha. Like it's funny, it's good, it's enjoyable. Like the series in general is enjoyable, and it has a lot of heart. And the characters, although they're all terrible people, and if you met them in real life, you probably would not like them. It's just something about them. It's just something about them that makes you like them. See, Scott Pilgrim is peak fiction. It's peak. It's absolute cinema. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I honestly just wanted to make a video about Scott Pilgrim because it is so good, and I highly recommend that you guys read it, watch it, whatever. It's just really good. So if you guys like this video, please click subscribe, and in the comments, let me know who your favorite Scott Pilgrim character is. Mine is Wallace. So yeah, take care of yourselves. Bye.